Hey guys, I am still a little sick, but I will be in class today. I am just going to record my lesson so I only have to give it once. Today it's completing the worksheet and finding errors on a worksheet. So this is 6-3. 3 parts. First we'll prepare the balance sheet and the income statement columns of the worksheet. Then we're going to total and rule the worksheet, and then we're going to go back and see if there are any errors. So first step is extending the balance sheet account balances on a worksheet. So a financial statement that reports the value of a business's assets, liabilities, and owner's equity on a specific date is called the balance sheet. So remember, the balance sheet is going to have the ALO accounts: assets, liabilities, and owner's equity. So what we're going to do first is we're going to slide cash over, slide petty cash over, slide accounts receivable over, slide accounts receivable over. And then for our supplies and prepaid insurance, we're going to recalculate the adjustment. So it's a debit with a credit adjustment, so they'll be subtracted. So that's how we get the 90. Same with the prepaid insurance. It's a debit with a credit adjustment, so they'll be subtracted, and we'll get 75. And then everything else gets slided over. The accounts payable, the second accounts payable, the capital, and the drawing. And this is going to create our balance sheet. So debit balances without adjustments just get slid over. Debit balances with adjustments, you have to do the math. And then credit balances without adjustments get slid over. So the second statement that we do is the income statement. So extending the income statement account balances on a worksheet. Basically what that means is a financial statement showing the revenue and expenses for the fiscal period is an income statement. So this is our 400 and 500s accounts. These are the bottom two. So now wherever you see income summary, down, that's going to be what's going to go on the income statement. So sales will slide over, advertising, cash shorten over, communications, equipment, insurance, miscellaneous, and supplies. All of those will slide over. So sales balance, all of our expenses without adjustments, and then expenses with adjustments. The difference between the total revenue and total expenses when the total revenue is greater is called net income. So if you make more money than you spend, then you have net income. So in this scenario, our revenue was $582,000 and our expenses was $265,800. So our revenue was more than our expenses, so we had net income. You find the difference, and our net income was $3,162. So single rule, totals, and here's our net income. And then you extend it, and it's going to go all the way on the outside. So when you have net income, it'll be a debit on the income statement and a credit on the balance sheet. If you have net loss, it's the opposite. You'll have a credit to net income. You'll have a credit to income statement and a debit to the balance sheet. Because remember, net loss means that your expenses were greater than your revenue. So please remember that. And at the bottom, you should have your debits equal your credit on your income statement and your balance sheet. So the difference between total revenue and total expenses, when the expenses are greater, this is our net loss. That will look like this. So notice that it's on the inside. So it's on the credit of the income statement and the debit of the balance sheet. That's opposite of net income. So you still have the single rule, you still have the totals, and you have the net losses on the inside. Several different kinds of errors may be made when preparing a worksheet. So sometimes they're just general accounting errors, sometimes they're calculation errors, sometimes you may have put the number in the wrong column. Any of these can happen. In which balance sheet column is net income recorded on the worksheet? The balance sheet credit column. In which balance sheet column is net loss recorded on the worksheet? The balance sheet debit. What is the first step in checking for arithmetic errors when two column totals are not in balance? You subtract the smaller from the total from the larger total to find the difference. What is one way to check for an error caused by transposed numbers? The difference between two column totals can be divided evenly by 9. What term is used to describe an error that occurs when numbers are moved to the right or left of an amount column? That's called a slide. Alright, so let's go ahead and get into MindTap. So for today's work together, on April 30th of the current year, Fix It Now has completed the trial balance columns and adjustment columns of the worksheet. So we're going to go ahead and slide and extend everything. So the first part is going to be our balance sheet. So our cash is $4,900. Our petty cash is $75. Our accounts receivable is $1,387. Our supplies will have to be calculated. So I have 228 minus, because it's a credit, it'll reduce it, 153. So my actual supplies is $75, and that's what's going to go under debit. The next one also needs to be calculated, the prepaid insurance. So my original amount is $375. I'm reducing it or adjusting by $125, so my new balance is $250. $250 is what will go on the balance sheet under the debit. Our accounts payable is a credit, so $267. Our capital is a credit, so $7,443. And our drawing is a debit of $1,700. So we've slid everything over onto the balance sheet. Next, we're going to go to the income. So income summary, down. So there's nothing for income summary, so we're going to go to sales. Sales is a credit, so $2,160. Advertising expense is a debit. Cash short and over is a $6 debit. Our insurance expense, which is an adjustment, is a $125 debit. Our miscellaneous expense is $189. Our supplies expense is an adjustment, and it is $153 on the debit. And our utilities expense is a debit of $550. The next step is to total and rule. So we need to add up each of the columns. The next step that we need to do is adding up our debits and credits on the income statement and the balance sheet. So I'm just going to work left to right. So the first set is going to be $460 plus 6 plus 125 plus 189 plus 153 plus 550 for a total of $1,483. On the credit side, there's just one amount, so I'm just going to rewrite it, $2,160. Next, we're going to go to the debits on the balance sheet. So $4,900 plus 75 plus 1,387 plus 75 plus 250 plus 1,700. 8387. And last, we're going to add the credit column. 267 plus 7,443. 7,710. And we're going to go ahead and go to the next step. When you do the grade it now and go to the next step, it actually shows you whether or not you got it correct. So here are the corrected totals: 1483, 2160, 8387, and 7710. The next step that they want us to do is they want us to calculate and record the net income or the net loss. In order to do that, what we'll take is the revenue and subtract the expenses. So the revenue is our sales account, which is our credit side on the income statement, and that is $21.60. And our expenses, or total expenses, is the debit side of the income statement. So that's going to be minus $14.83. This gives us a total of $677. This is our net income. So our net income is going to go right here, and that is $677. I'm just going to copy and paste it. It's also going to go over here. Now I'm going to total these two to get my final. Now I know that $14.83 and $677 is going to give me $21.60, but just to double check, $14.83, $21.60. So $21.60 on the debit and $21.60 on the credit. So now I'm going to go over to the balance sheet. On the balance sheet, these two should add up. So $677 plus $7,710 should give me $83.87, which it does. So my debits now balance and they equal my credits. And we have completed the entire lesson. So if you have any questions, feel free to ask me.